In the summer of 1985, a routine shoplifting incident at a San Francisco hardware store would unravel one of the most horrifying serial murder cases in American history. What investigators discovered in the remote Sierra Nevada foothills was a nightmare made real. A bunker designed for torture, videotapes documenting unspeakable cruelty, and the remains of at least 11 victims, though the true number may have been as high as 25. This is the story of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, two men whose partnership created what they called Operation Miranda, a systematic campaign of kidnapping, sexual slavery, torture, and murder that terrorized Northern California between 1983 and 1985.
Welcome to Crisis and Consequences, a true crime podcast with a purpose. We dive into murder stories and the complicated humans behind them, blending storytelling, dark humor, and real conversation. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast contains dark, troubling, and explicit content.
So, hi, I'm Charity.
I'm KB.
Welcome to Crisis and Consequences, podcast with a purpose. This happens when I've already recorded and it's like my tongue's...
Yeah, and you were like, last episode, you were like, I have a frog in my throat. And I came in here just fine. And then it's like, I don't know, 5 minutes into the episode, I was like, I'm like a horse over here. And I keep trying to lean back so it's not in the microphone. And it's like...
You want a pillow?
Just smother myself.
Yeah. No. Because you're leaning way back. Like maybe then, I don't know. And just
lean back.
Helpful.
Well, that's actually quite so much better.
Good.
My
there you go.
Back. I didn't realize it was.
Yeah.
Oh, hallelujah.
You're welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of like body stuff, like I just had this body work done on my stupid like low back hip stuff.
Yeah.
And felt really good. And then I had a hitch in my hip yesterday afternoon.
You were doing cartwheels?
No, I wasn't doing cartwheels. I was just walking, breathing, doing nothing. And then, but then I woke up fine, and now here it comes again.
That's weird.
Is
something out of socket?
No. It's all
you just got a gangster limb?
What can I do? Don't.
You should own it.
With me, yeah.
You should.
All right.
Or, I mean, if it starts to get to like the pirate pole, where you're dragging away. That's no longer cool. You might need to get that checked out.
That's not. Yes, that actually happened to one of our coworkers.
Oh.
It did last year. And she just could not. Yeah, she had to have surgery. It was really bad. So hopefully that won't happen.
Okay.
How about you?
I don't have any crisis of my own, but I'll tell you one of my mom's.
Uh-oh.
Kind of cracked me up. So, we're in spring now, and it's like creepy crawlies are coming out. And when I say that, I mean like bugs, all the things. Mm-hmm. And she has a beautiful garden in her backyard. And so she's telling me that what happened is yesterday, it was nice and sunny out, whatever, and she's out there walking along. She has this huge juniper bush.
Okay.
And she walks out, and there's this giant snake. My mom hates snakes. They're just garden snakes. They're not like rattlesnakes. Yes, I hate them too. Like, they're horrible. I don't even know why God made them. Like, get them off the earth.
Ooh, we can put those on the Run It Dome.
Yes, okay. Absolutely.
With all the shit bags.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Ooh, got it.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding.
Winner, chicken dinner. I like this idea. But, so garden snakes they're great. You know what I mean? Like, they kill all kinds of bugs. They're actually kind of good for your garden.
Don't they eat cats?
But she does not. She does not. She has cats in the house.
Okay.
They don't go outside.
Okay. I'm kidding. They don't eat cats.
But anyway, so this thing is like huge as she's describing it. And it's sunbathing because they probably come out of hibernation. They've probably been, so there's this one and she's like, so cute, but she's all, I just sat there and stared at it and I didn't want to walk by it. So I walked by it real slow. She's going out to the garage to get in her vehicle. So she goes by it real slow and she's like, and I went into like the man room as we call it, because that's my dad's room, but it's now her plant room. So she goes out to the plant room, grabs, a shovel, and she goes, I killed it 50 times. So then she leaves, because then she's like, I'll just bury it when I I'll chop it, like I'll throw it away, get rid of it when I come home. So she comes home, cleans that up, gets rid of it, leaves and comes back again.
And there's
another one.
Yeah.
Even bigger. And so she's like, what is happening? She goes, so that one I killed it at least 70 times. So I just see her out there just.
Does she have video camera?
No, I wish. I should install one.
Yeah.
My mom is hilarious.
All right. So, do you remember when we were doing the sex slave murders?
Oh gosh, yes.
Right. And then that spawned the people who were like inspired by them and that I never heard the story
Which
of.
they were even worse.
And they were even worse. These guys came up in that research too, and I've never heard their story. So I'm like, they just keep coming. So here's another sex slave murder duo, but this time instead of like a set of lovers,
Yeah.
it's
Two dudes.
two dudes. Maybe it's a bromance.
That's terrible.
That's gross.
So terrible.
Okay. You ready to talk about these guys?
Not really. No, not really.
This is what we do here.
Oh.
Okay. Leonard Thomas Lake, born in San Francisco. You know what? California is a theme. I think California is a problem. All these stories lately have to do with California. I don't know why. What is going on, California?
Remember, I
Okay.
think I said that because those other two, weren't those both California?
Yes.
And I was like, what is going on? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those minivan murders were
Terrible.
I didn't think it could get worse.
Okay, well, these guys they're competing. Okay.
Okay.
So Leonard Thomas Lake, born in San Francisco in October of 1945, just after World War II ended. Early childhood, like so many, marked by instability, abandonment. When Lake was very young, his parents separated, and both parents eventually just left him and all his siblings. Like they couldn't. Single parenting was just not in the cards for them.
So there's no parenting.
No
They're just like,
parenting.
okay, bye, we're out.
Yeah. Okay,
Are they
bye.
together or
We brought you
separate?
into
Do
the
you know?
world. No, they're not together anymore.
Okay.
So he ended up being raised by his grandmother, who was said to have been a very, very strict disciplinarian. And even as a kid, he started displaying disturbing behaviors. So get your little kids, if they are displaying disturbing behaviors, in therapy.
Yeah.
Right away. Right away.
But my question is, I'm like, do they not see it as disturbing behaviors?
I think they
Or do they just
Well,
ignore it because they're like, man, I don't
let
really
me
care, I don't have
explain
time.
to you, and then you tell me. Okay, so what he did is he started taking nude photographs of his sisters and his cousins, and he started becoming obsessed with pornography, and that would like dominate his life. This is all he could think about. He also
At what
tortured.
age?
I don't know if I
is he
know,
like
but he's a
teenager
kid.
or-
No,
okay.
not yet. He tortured small animals. He would dissolve mice in chemicals.
Oh.
I mean, he's hitting all the markers right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's disturbing. My child dissolves a living creature in chemicals. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay. In 1964, he enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps. He served 2 tours in Vietnam as a radar electronics technician. He never saw combat, although later he bragged about killing in the war because he's
Even though
cool.
he never saw combat?
Because he didn't want to say, hey, I kill little helpless animals in chemicals, but
Yeah.
yeah, so he's cool. During his service, he was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder and suffered what was described as a delusional breakdown in Da Nang. In 1971, he received a medical discharge. So they're like, later days, dude, you're not,
Sayonara.
yeah,
Not cut out for this.
sayonara. He struggled with relationships. I'm sure you're shocked to learn throughout his whole adult life.
On the medical discharge from the military. Like, do they just, so they're like, you're getting out of here. We don't want anything to do with you. Okay, bye. See you later. You go be a menace to
Schizoid
society.
personality disorder.
But
yeah,
that's where I'm like, shouldn't he get sent then?
with some help or
With some help. Like,
yeah.
you cannot be doing this. We see you as a serious issue. You are diagnosed with these medical disorders, which are concerning.
Yeah.
You need to go to a mental institution for help.
Yeah.
Some type of like therapy, like checking in, or do they just let him out?
Let him out.
That's terrible.
It's terrible.
We should fix that.
I'm on it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. So his first marriage dissolves after his wife discovered he was making and appearing in amateur pornographic films, usually involving bondage and sadomasochism. Interestingly, he'd been married once before, and it was his sexual deviance that made his first wife leave him. So clearly he's not learning any lessons here. He became increasingly fixated on survivalism, and he developed an apocalyptic worldview, convinced that nuclear holocaust was imminent, and so this was the backdrop for everything that follows. But it was a novel that would later crystallize his darkest fantasies. It was John Fowles, the collector, and it tells the story of a man who kidnaps a woman named Miranda and keeps her captive like the butterflies in his collection. So for Lake, this wasn't fiction. It became a blueprint. And so, but that's an interesting connection too. I didn't make that connection when we, because the minivan people
the minivan murder studied the book of the dynamic sex duo.
Yeah.
And that was their blueprint.
Interesting. So he began planning what he would call Operation Miranda, which was a terrible plan and scheme to capture and enslave women as sex slaves, ostensibly for a post-apocalyptic world. So that's Leonard. Okay, now there's Charles Ng. Charles Ng was born in Hong Kong on December 24th of 1960 to a very wealthy family. His father was a successful executive who held super high expectations of his family and demanded excellence. He was also a harsh disciplinarian when his son failed to meet those expectations. So when Charles struggled in school, his father sent him to England to live with relatives and attend boarding school, hoping that distance would solve the problem. It didn't. He started to have difficulties. He continued to have difficulties, and eventually he was sent to California to live with an aunt. He attended Notre Dame, but he was an academic failure. In October of 1979, he used false documents that claimed he was born in Bloomington, Indiana, and he used those to enlist in the Marine Corps. So he's stationed in Hawaii, but his military career was short-lived. In 1980, he and two other Marines stole automatic weapons from the Kaneohe Bay Base Armory, and facing court-martial, he escaped custody and fled to Northern California.
What?
He's just trouble. So unfortunately, these two met. It was like 80 or 81, likely through an advertisement, they think, that Lake had placed in a survivalist magazine. And by this time, he was managing a motel in Philo, California, when Charles needed a place to hide after his escape from military custody. So Lake takes him in. So this is how they hook up. Several witnesses would later testify that Lake was the dominant figure in the relationship, and Charles Ng stated that he looked up to Lake as like a brother or fatherly figure, someone who had taken care of him when he needed it most. In April of 82, federal authorities raided the mobile home they shared in Ukiah, seizing illegal weapons and explosives. Lake jumps bail. He goes into hiding. Charles was returned to Fort Leavenworth to complete his sentence for theft and desertion. And then he would serve 4.5 years to complete his sentence before rejoining Lake in 1984. So he could have made a clean getaway, but he goes back to this guy. So now we're in Wileysville, because while Charles Ng was in prison, Lake had been really busy. He moved to a remote cabin near Wileysville in about 150 miles east of San Francisco in the Sierra Nevada foothills. The cabin had been owned by the family of his ex-wife, Clara Lynn. Though they had divorced in November of 82, they had remained close, and so he still had access to this cabin. So he transforms the property into what he believed would end up being a survivalist compound, because he's convinced the apocalypse is imminent. But the structure he built beside the cabin, this bunker, had a much darker purpose. In his journals they found later, he called it a dungeon. So it's cinder block, it's a bunker, it has 2 hidden rooms. The first room is a torture chamber containing a lot of implements of torture and awful stuff. And there's a sign on the wall that read, "The Miranda," a reference to his planned operation. The second was this tiny little cell, just 6.5 feet by 3.5 feet, and it contained only a bucket and toilet paper. Oof. There was a one-way mirror that allowed Lake to watch captives without their knowledge. And in the main cabin, investigators would later find a 4-poster bed with restraints tied to each post and bloody pieces of women's lingerie scattered about.
You said that her family, his ex-wife's family, this was their property. Did they still own it and were just letting him use it and never went there?
I'm not sure they knew he was there. Never went there, yeah.
Yeah, they just own this property and never go there. My gosh.
Yeah. So his killings, Lake started it. They seem to have begun even before Charles Ng got out of prison and rejoined him. So his first known victim was someone who should have been able to trust him. was his own younger brother.
No.
Yes. Donald Stephen Lake was 31 years old, and he had been mentally disabled since childhood after he was hit by a train. Leonard resented Donald, believing his disability had consumed their mother's attention.
First of all, I'm still stuck. Like, he was hit by a train. How do you even survive being hit by a
Oh,
train?
people do. Yeah.
It's nuts.
My husband sees it all the time.
Really?
Yes.
Good grief.
All the time.
Sorry. That is astonishing to me because the way that, I guess it depends on the speed of the train.
Yeah.
But
When
that's
you're
what
rolling through town, they're pretty slow,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. No. Yeah. So he's hit by a train, left with some, mental challenges. And of course he's going to need his mother's attention. But Leonard resented him and blah, 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 blah. So poor Leonard was raised by his grandparents because mom's attention was focused elsewhere. In his journals and conversations later on, he referred to his brother as a leech and said he didn't deserve to live. So he's just horrible.
That's mean.
He's horrible. In December of 82, he invited Donald to accompany him on what he claimed was a house-sitting job. Donald was never seen again. Leonard stole his brother's identity and began cashing his disability checks. He even forged a letter to their mother claiming to be Donald, saying he'd moved to Reno to live with drug dealers.
Dear Mom.
4 months later, in May of 83, he murdered his best friend.
What?
Yeah. Charles Gunnar, who had been, or Gunnar, I've seen it both ways, who had been the best man at his wedding. This is his friend. Best man at his wedding. He's like, yeah, I'm going to practice on you too. So he invites Gunnar on a road trip to Las Vegas, and then he returns alone in Gunnar's van, telling acquaintances that Gunnar had run off with a woman. He stole his identity too and started introducing himself as Charles Gunnar to people that he met in Wileysville. Gunnar's body wouldn't be discovered until 1992 when a new property owner was digging to put a garage footing in, and they found his body.
So at this point, he is just, when he's disposing of the bodies, he's just disposing of them just kind of willy-nilly,
Yeah.
not in the bunker.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is between the time. So like what he'd been doing while Charles was in prison. Okay, so now Charles completes a sentence. He's dishonorably discharged, and he rejoins Lake at the Wileysville cabin. And so now these two get together, and everything accelerates. So according to Lake's own journals, Charles was initially very hesitant to get involved with my plan, but that reluctance would not last long. So together, these two began a systematic pattern of kidnapping and murder. According to court records, they killed men and infants immediately, but they subjected women to extended periods of enslavement, rape, and torture before killing them. Many victims were lured to the cabin through deception. Lake would respond to classified advertisements for items people were trying to sell. He'd kill them. He'd steal the property.
That's why I don't do Facebook.
And steal their identities. You know what? My daughter, who does do this, she always sends us a note like, hey, I'm going here. I'm meeting somebody. Here's my PIN, whatever. So we know.
That's smart.
But he'd steal their property. He'd steal their identities. And some of the victims, again, these are people that they know. They're just like starting with what they know and before they branch off into people they don't know. So Reginald Frisbee, who goes by Reggie in 1984, he was a 29-year-old man who was never reported missing. It remains unclear how he met these two, and his remains were only identified through DNA 40 years after his death.
Jeez.
Donald Giulietti was a 36-year-old disc jockey from San Francisco. He was an Asian-American man, broke into the apartment Giulietti shared with Richard Carrazza and shot both men. Giulietti died. Carrazza survived and later identified Charles Ng as the shooter, making him the only known survivor of either Lake's or Ng's attacks. And then the Dubs family, this is in 84, Harry Dubs, 33, his wife Deborah, 33, and their infant son, who is just 1 year old. They disappeared from their San Francisco home when two men arrived at their door. Deborah was on the phone with a friend at the time and told her she had to go because visitors had come calling. The family was never heard from again. Video evidence found later showing Deborah being assaulted so severely that investigators said there was no way she could have survived what they were doing to her.
So they were recording themselves, documenting?
Yeah. Yep.
Sick.
Paul Costner, 1984, Lake answered his ad to sell a car After the murder, he drove Costner's Honda and used his identity. The Bond O'Connor Stapley victims, this was in 85. This was one of their most complex attacks. So Lonnie Wayne Bond Sr., 27, he lived near Wileysville by that cabin with his girlfriend, Brenda Sue O'Connor, who was 20, and their 2-year-old son, Lonnie Bond Jr. Their friend Robin Scott Stapley was 26, who was also killed. So the bodies of the men were found in sleeping bags buried off a mountain road. Baby Lonnie and Brenda O'Connor remained missing for decades. O'Connor's remains were only identified through DNA analysis in April of 25, 40 years after her death, and were finally returned to her family. And I don't think they found the baby. Kathy Allen, a young woman who became one of the most haunting faces of this case because she appeared on the videotapes that they made. On the video, Lake tells her while she sits bound in a chair, quote, "If you don't go along with us, we'll probably take you into the bed, tie you down, rape you, shoot you, and bury you," end quote. And her boyfriend was also murdered. So these guys didn't leave anything to the imagination. They put it all out there.
Yuck.
But perhaps the most chilling evidence in this case came from Lake's own documentation of his crimes. He kept very detailed journals. Mm-hmm. Most disturbingly, he videotaped these torture sessions, but 2 tapes in particular were found that documented the torture of female victims. One was labeled M Ladies, M meaning for Miranda. Mm-hmm. And on these tapes, the terror is palpable. I mean, it's real, it's raw, it's happening. Mm-hmm. Brenda O'Connor is shown handcuffed and pleading for the lives of her husband and her 2-year-old son, both of whom had already been killed. Charles Ng cuts her shirt off with a knife while telling her, quote, "You can cry and stuff like the rest of them, but it won't do any good. We're pretty cold-hearted, so to speak," end quote. Kathy Allen is shown being told to undress, and Lake, who's off camera, says, quote, "We want to see what we bought," end quote. The videotapes don't show the actual murders, but investigators knew that death followed. The victims' bodies or remains were later found on the property or nearby. Lake also made solo videos in which he outlined his philosophy and his plans. He talked about capturing women to serve as sex slaves after a nuclear apocalypse destroyed civilization. And in his worldview, women existed only for male pleasure and service. That's it. That's it. In his journals, he wrote entries that revealed both his meticulous planning and his complete lack of empathy. He noted that when he, quote, met resistance for the first time, end quote, he wrote that women should only be used as sex slaves. Like, this is my response to someone having free will and me taking that away. Mm-hmm. In fact, here's one of the quotes from a video that he produced. Quote, "I want to be able to use a woman whenever and however I want. And when I'm tired or bored or not interested, I simply want to put her away, lock her up in her cell, and get her out of my sight, out of my life." Clearly, he has some serious mommy women issues, right? Clearly. Whew. All right, so it's 1985 June. Charles Ng goes into a hardware store in South San Francisco, and he shoplifts a vice. It's kind of a petty crime, but it's this petty crime that would bring everything crashing down. So he placed a stolen item in the trunk of the Honda that had belonged to Paul Costner, one of the victims, and they kept the car. So he managed to escape when store employees confronted him, but they got the car's license plate number. Police tracked down the car, which means they tracked down Leonard Lake, who was waiting in the car. Lake identified himself as Robin Stapley, which was the name of another one of his victims, and showed an altered driver's license. But the license stated listed Stapley's age as 26, and Lake was clearly much older. So police became suspicious. They arrested him. They found a gun with an illegal silencer in the car, which was also registered to a missing person. So he's taken to San Francisco PD for questioning. While being held, he asks for a glass of water. When left alone, he swallowed a cyanide pill that he had sewn into a secret compartment in his clothing.
What?
Survivalist shit, baby. Yeah. So he slips into a coma. He's placed on life support. 4 days later, on June 6th of 85, Leonard Lake died without ever being convicted of all of these atrocious crimes.
No.
Cyanide pills.
Way.
Where do you even get that? Can you get that on Amazon? I don't want to look. I don't want my algorithms to show me cyanide pills.
That's insane.
Yeah. But before his death, he wrote a brief suicide note that revealed his and Charles's real names and hinted at their crimes, but the true scope of their horror was still unknown. Okay, so he's dead. I'll get to the rest of it. Oh, boy.
My gosh.
And again, I'd never heard this story. I came across this one totally by accident in researching that first sex slave murder stuff and was just like, what? Okay, so when investigators searched the Wallisville property, they found... I can't imagine being an investigator on that scene.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Piecing together what's going on. But they found 12 corpses buried in shallow graves. They found an additional 45 pounds of charred bone fragments, which suggests the total number of victims could be as many as 25 people. They found all these journals and videotapes of Leonard Lakes. They found a hand-drawn treasure map that led to 2 buried 5-gallon buckets. It's like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah, icky.
Horror movie, right? One contained envelopes with names and victims' identifications. The other held his handwritten journals from like 83 and 84. The bunker's hidden rooms revealed the full extent of the torture chamber system they had up, like the restraints, the one-way mirror, all the stuff. And meanwhile, Charles Ng had fled after the shoplifting incident. And about a month later, on July 6 of 85, he was spotted in Calgary, Canada, attempting to steal from a department store. A security guard tried to stop him. Ng shot and wounded the guard with a .22 caliber handgun, shooting him in the hand. Canadian police were able to subdue him and arrest him. He was charged with robbery, attempted murder, and possession of a firearm. But Ng would not face trial for the California murders for another 14 years. So he fought extradition to the U.S.
Just because they didn't have a way to pin it on him, or
perhaps, but part of it is to they must have known earlier on, because he starts fighting extradition, and that went on for like 6 years because he knew he'd face the death penalty. His lawyer argued that this violated Canadian law because they had more stringent human rights laws than the United States does, than some states in the United States does. Okay, so 91, in a 4-3 decision, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that Ng could be extradited despite the potential for capital punishment. He was finally returned to California, and he was charged with 12 counts of first-degree murder. Even then, the legal proceedings were far from over. He goes through multiple attorneys, uses every delay tactic that they can come up with. So the trial didn't begin until 1998, 13 years after his crimes and 17 years after some of the murders. So here's the trial. It begins in Orange County, California in October of 98. The prosecution builds their case on all these forms of evidence. There's the videotapes showing him actively participating in sexual torture and abuse. There's the detailed journals documenting the crimes. There's the physical evidence, like personal property of the victims found all around this, including in his San Francisco apartment. There's his fingerprints at the Wallisville cabin. There's testimony from Richard Carraza, who survived being shot and identified him as the shooter. There's testimony from Maurice Laberge, a Canadian inmate who claimed Ng had confessed details to him and had drawn disturbing cartoons, which were particularly damning, probably about the little bunker. So according to Laberge's testimony, Ng had drawn images of... Oh, I forgot about this. Okay. Of babies being killed in horrific ways, like smashed or drowned or fried in a wok or put in a microwave. One cartoon showed a skeletal Ng in a cobweb-filled cell at San Quentin with pictures of his victims on the wall and the slogan, quote, "No gun, no fun, no kill, no thrill. Daddy dies, mommy cries, baby fries," end quote. He's sick.
Yikes.
Another cartoon depicted a, quote, remains claiming section where grieving relatives came to pick up bags containing their loved ones' body parts. I forgot. I blocked all of this out, I think. He thought they were funny.
No.
Well, he's in California. They have the death penalty. Okay. January of 99, after the defense had concluded its case, Ng made a stunning decision. Against his attorney's advice, he asked to take the stand in his own defense. Judge John Ryan granted the request, and jurors who had been told Ng would not testify were surprised to see him in the witness box. His strategy was to blame everything on Leonard Lake.
Oh, I knew that was.
Oh, yeah, of course. He claimed that he was merely an observer dominated by the older, more experienced ex-Marine. He portrayed himself as someone so lacking in confidence that he didn't even trust himself to drive a car.
Oh, please.
Quote, I kind of feel like he was taking care of me, so I didn't want to make him angry. I feel like I owed him something because he helped me when I needed it, end quote. He admitted to helping Lake dispose of bodies and to burglarizing victims' homes, but he denied any role in the killings. He claimed, sorry, your cartoons, that's
your
it,
cartoons
dude.
Depict your...
Yeah. And the videotapes, you can't, no.
So and that's the other weird thing. So it's like they filmed the abuse, but they didn't film the killing. The videotapes, I think earlier in this you said, like, it didn't show them. It showed the abuse and the sexual abuse and all of that, but it didn't. It's like they almost turned it off.
I think so. So what he was trying to say is that these torture videotapes were part of these filming sessions that were for sadomasochistic pornography, not actual captivity and murder.
Okay. So like,
he's trying to say that Leonard duped him.
Yeah.
Yeah. But his testimony quickly fell apart under cross-examination. She confronted him with the videotape. Oh, wait. That's right. Okay, so she confronted him with the videotape showing him cutting Brenda O'Connor's bra off with a knife while O'Connor was handcuffed and pleading for her family's lives. She pointed out his words on the tape. Quote, you can cry and stuff like the rest of them, but it won't do you no good. We are pretty cold-hearted, so to speak. So how did those words fit with his claims of being an unwilling participant was the big question, right? So his answers became contradictory. They became illogical. He claimed he said those things just to show solidarity with Lake.
Please.
Yeah. And to discourage the woman from trying to escape. He said cutting off her clothing reminded him of a scene from a Charles Bronson movie that he had admired.
That's not helpful.
She pressed him with other inconsistencies like, why'd you stay at the cabin for 6 hours while Lake drove to San Jose to kidnap Kathy Allen? Like, if you didn't want to be involved in this, you could have left. Why did you take a nude shower with one of the female victims if you were just a passive observer? Why did you steal property from these multiple victims or shoot somebody? Like, and he stumbled through his answers. He became defiant. He was glaring at the prosecutor because, like, this isn't going my way. I thought it was smart. I mean, I did this for myself. So they argued, the prosecution argued that Ng was not under Lake's control, but his own person, making his own independent choices and doing whatever he wanted to do. So the verdict, February of 99, the jury began deliberations. 15 hours spread over 3 days. They finally reach a verdict. And on February 24th of 99, Charles Ng was convicted of 11 murders, 6 men, 3 women, 2 infants. And the jury deadlocked on the 12th charge, which was the murder of Paul Costner. The presiding judge noted that Ng was not under any duress, and he did not evidence support that he was under domination of Leonard Lake. So the jury recommended the death penalty. It's estimated that this trial cost the state of California over $20 million over the years. So this case, of course, like it's disturbing, but it also raises, like we talk about that in some of these things, like how can two people reinforce each other's psychoses, these terrible, horrible impulses, and become even more dangerous? And would the one well, in this case, we know the one person was acting on it alone before they partnered up, but it's almost like, ooh, now someone believes me and I'm in this echo chamber. So what I'm doing is now acceptable.
Yeah.
And therefore it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's justifiable.
It's normalizing it across two people, but it's normalizing it, right?
Yeah. Misery loves company. I mean, I guess this isn't misery for them, but I also I don't know, like one of the things I thought too is it's like, in this relationship, it's like, how do you trust the other person?
Right.
Or they just don't care? Especially because it's like, look at the people that Leonard was, he killed his own brother and he killed his best friend. Like, and along comes Charles. And it's like, hey, let's be murder buddies, like horrible dudes together.
Well, sure,
but
it's like
they trust each other.
he knew that he could risk it, right? Because if Charles would have said no, he already knew he had the capacity to kill his friend buddy.
But I'm talking about Charles. Like maybe Charles didn't know that he did those killings before.
Maybe. Yeah, that I'm not clear on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's Operation Miranda. That's the Miranda murders.
That's terrible.
And, he tried to say it was for apocalyptic reasons, but no, he was just a sick SOB. And
in the story that you just told, it's like Leonard was the apocalyptic guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This guy, yeah, so he answered like a survival ad or whatever.
Yeah.
But nothing that they were doing had anything to do with preparing for the apocalypse.
No.
Like they were killing families.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here's a young couple and a baby. Like get rid of the dad and the baby, and now we're gonna
use the woman up.
Poor
until
woman.
we're
Yeah.
done with her. Yeah. He's still on death row for now more than 2 decades. And there have been multiple appeals, all this stuff. They just keep rejecting. But now there's a moratorium on executions implemented by Newsom in 2019. Mm-hmm. So his execution remains on hold indefinitely.
Oh.
So he's still alive.
So
he didn't have a cyanide pill or whatever the hell sewed into his secret compartment in his clothing. Yeah.
I don't know. And then I wonder, like, I don't really care, but it's like these guys that do all of this and then they end up in prison for these crimes. I don't know. Like, it's like part of me is just kind of like, so we feed them 3 meals a day and they have a room and board. They have access to books. Like, I know prison is not glamorous. I know that it's hard. I know that there's nasty things that go down within prison. But, like, I still feel like for people that do these kind of heinous acts, I don't know. Like, it's just...
It's hard.
It is really hard.
It's a hard question.
No pun intended. It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Like, it's... Like, I feel like he should at least have to be, like, tortured himself, like, even having to write on a chalkboard every day. Like, I will not, you know what I mean? Like, shame on me. I will not, like, I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard with people like that because there's nothing that... They're not rational. Like, the things that would make an impact to you or me, that we would learn our lessons from, not that we would do stuff like that,
No,
but like... that just doesn't exist, or they wouldn't.
It doesn't register.
No.
Yeah.
It doesn't. So again, I think this run at Dome thing is going to grow. I think there needs to be a prison on the Dome. And the ones that you're sure, because wrongful convictions
do happen,
drive me crazy. Yeah. So if there's any kind of question, those people don't get put to the Dome. Mm-hmm. But the ones that we are positive, they just need to go to the Dome. If there's no, death penalty or capital punishment or whatever, they can go there and live out their days there. Yeah.
I don't know. The other thing I think about too, like when we're reviewing these heinous acts, is I keep thinking about like our justice system and the different people that are within it that have to follow the law. You know what I mean? Like, and they have to, like you just said, like there are sometimes wrongful, people are wrongfully charged with things, but having to defend like some of these people, like being on the defense of like, how do they do it? Even reviewing like this footage and having to document and go over and like build the case for all of this stuff, like having to like, I mean, you'd have to take a lot of breaks, I think. I mean, it's just...
You'd have to be really good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah. And
disassociating. I mean, we had that talk with Holly Strand multiple times she's been in the studio talking about the work she does with, forensic analysis of...
Well, and Laura, too, when she was in. Like, it's... Yeah, it just would be... It's a hard job.
Yeah. So that's the Miranda murders. And moral of the story is keep a cyanide pill. No, I'm kidding. Don't. Okay.
Are you ready to re-enter the workforce or find a career that actually fits? Or maybe you're an employer tired of noisy platforms that miss the mark? Try Focus, a smarter hiring tool that helps you cut through the noise and focus on what matters. Visit focus.work today. That's FOQUS.WORK.
And I don't know. That's my thing. It's like we go back to that thing where it's like, if you, I don't know. And I think if you see people who are having really strange behavior, or just, I don't know, steer clear.
Antisocial, you torture animals, you are doing these things to your sisters and your cousins as a kid, like, these are flags. Intervene. Do something, anything you can. Doesn't mean that you're going to thwart all of this, but at least you have tried.
Yeah.
And at least this person is on somebody's radar and he doesn't get into the military before finding that he's got the schizoid, whatever, personality disorder. And I don't know, man. The signs are there.
Yeah.
But they're easier to see hindsight. I recognize that. But Lord have mercy. I don't know. Well, I'm about tucked out.
That's all, folks.
That's all, folks. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. And please subscribe so you never, ever miss an episode. Leave us a 5-star
you don't want to
review.
miss this crap, right? Why would you want to miss this? What's wrong with you? Okay.
Yeah. Well, or if you've got other stories. If you've got something that you've heard about, we haven't covered, or that we need to cover, or maybe you're interested in and you think we should deep dive into it, let us know. Send those to hello@crisisandconsequences.com.
Yeah, please. We want to hear all your ideas or your stories. I mean, you have anything goes, really. I mean, clearly in the true crime space, horrific things happen to people all the time. I talk about my stuff. If you've survived something and you want to share that and give that hope to somebody else who's listening, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So keep us
and
posted.
You can remain anonymous if you'd like. Just let us know that.
Yeah. So like I said, send those to hello@crisisandconsequences.com. You can connect with us on socials, same handle. And all of our sources are on the show notes and our website. So we'll be here
it's
next week.
all there.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you with a new story next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.